The billionaire who swore against love until she made him break every promise. Hi, my beautiful family. Today I come with a special blessing in my heart. Welcome back to Mr. Peter Stories, where love changes everything. A divine prayer for our Mr. Peter family, blessed by heavenly grace. May our hearts be guided by divine light. May our souls be touched by pure love. May our family grow stronger with each story we share. Bless every member of this beautiful family, old and new, to my precious new viewers watching for the first time. This story holds a promise that will touch your heart so deeply you'll understand why millions have joined our family. Watch until the end, and I guarantee you'll feel the magic that makes our stories special. And to my loyal family members, my heart overflows with love for you. Your support means everything. If these stories bring light to your life, spread the love by typing "We are satisfied" in the comments below. Today's story, it's different, more powerful, more emotional. A story of promises broken and remade, of love that conquers the coldest hearts. Let's begin this journey together, my beautiful family. Open your hearts, because this story will change everything. The Alexander Pierce law firm towered over downtown Seattle like a glass and steel monolith, its windows reflecting the stormy October sky. On the 42nd floor, Marissa Wren stood motionless before the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching raindrops race down the glass. Her reflection stared back at her, a woman whose success at 28 had become the talk of Seattle's legal circles. Yet today, she wasn't here as an attorney. She was here to meet her future husband. The thought made her fingers tighten around the leather portfolio she carried. Inside were the papers that would determine her future, a marriage contract that read more like a business merger, which, in essence, it was. Her family's shipping company, Wren Maritime, needed the technological infrastructure that Bruce Enterprises could provide. And Bruce Enterprises needed the established trade routes and port access that Wren Maritime controlled. A marriage between the heirs of both companies made perfect sense. On paper. The door opened behind her with a soft click. Marissa didn't turn immediately, using the window's reflection to compose herself as Stephen Bruce entered the conference room. His reputation preceded him, 35, devastatingly handsome, brilliant in business, and completely closed off to love after a very public betrayal 5 years ago. Miss Wren. His voice was deep, controlled, with an edge that suggested he was used to commanding rooms much larger than this one. I appreciate your punctuality. Marissa turned, meeting his gaze directly. He was more striking in person than in the society page photographs she'd studied. Tall and broad-shouldered, he wore his tailored charcoal suit like armor. His dark hair was swept back from a face that belonged on a Renaissance sculpture, but it was his eyes that caught and held her attention. Steel gray and sharp as winter frost, they seemed to cut right through her carefully constructed poise. Mr. Bruce. She kept her voice steady, professional. I believe punctuality is the least we can expect from each other, given the circumstances. A slight lift of his eyebrows suggested he caught the edge in her tone. He moved to the conference table, setting down an expensive leather briefcase. Indeed, shall we discuss those circumstances? Marissa crossed to the table, maintaining the perfect posture her mother had drilled into her since childhood. As she sat, she caught a hint of his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her think of dark woods and winter nights. She pushed the thought aside. I've reviewed the contract thoroughly, she said, opening her portfolio. The terms seem straightforward enough. 2 years of marriage, separate residences if we choose, mutual business benefits, and a clean dissolution at the end, assuming both companies' integration is successful. Stephen took the seat across from her, his movements deliberate and controlled. And my personal stipulation? Ah, there it was, the infamous vow that had made headlines across Seattle. Yes, your public oath never to love again. Don't worry, Mr. Bruce, I'm not here for your heart. Something flickered in his eyes, anger, perhaps, or satisfaction. Good, because that's one asset that's not up for negotiation. May I ask why you felt the need to make such a public declaration? Marissa leaned forward slightly, genuinely curious. Surely a private decision to avoid romantic entanglements would have sufficed. You're questioning my methods, Miss Wren. His voice carried a warning edge. I'm questioning your motivations. There's a difference. She met his gaze steadily. A man who truly doesn't want love doesn't need to announce it to the world, unless, of course, he's trying to convince himself as much as everyone else. Stephen's jaw tightened, and for a moment the temperature in the room seemed to drop. He placed his hands flat on the table, and Marissa noticed he wore no rings, not even a watch, no adornments, no vulnerabilities. My motivations are not relevant to our arrangement, he said coldly. What matters is that I've been completely transparent about my expectations. This marriage is a business transaction, nothing more. Of course. Marissa withdrew a pen from her portfolio, a sleek Mont Blanc her father had given her when she made partner. Shall we proceed with the signing? Stephen produced the contracts from his briefcase, the heavy paper rustling in the quiet room. As he placed them before her, his fingers brushed hers briefly. A jolt of awareness shot through her at the contact, and she saw his hand twitch slightly before he pulled away. 6 copies, he said, his voice perfectly steady. Your lawyers can review them one final time if you wish. That won't be necessary. I've memorized every clause. She began signing, her signature flowing across the pages with practiced grace, including the one about minimum public appearances required to maintain the illusion of a real marriage. 4 social events per month, Stephen confirmed, watching her sign, coordinated by our PR teams to maximize business benefits. Marissa finished her signatures and slid the contracts across to him. And private appearances? I assume we'll need to coordinate those as well. She kept her tone professional, but the question hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Stephen's pen paused above the paper. Meaning? Living arrangements, Mr. Bruce. While the contract allows for separate residences, the media will expect us to share a home, at least initially. She watched his face carefully. Unless you're afraid of the temptation. His eyes snapped to hers, dark with something that might have been anger or something else entirely. I don't experience temptation, Miss Wren, not anymore. Everyone experiences temptation, Mr. Bruce. She stood, smoothing her charcoal pencil skirt. The question is whether we're strong enough to resist it. He signed the final document with a sharp flourish. I assure you, my strength has never been in question. Never. She moved to the windows again, using the reflection to study him. Not even when your former fiancé betrayed you, it must have taken considerable strength to shut down your heart so completely. She heard him stand, his chair scraping softly against the floor. His footsteps approached until he stood behind her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. My heart is not up for discussion, Miss Wren. His voice was low, dangerous. Not now. Not ever. Marissa turned to face him. Realizing too late how close they were standing, she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, and for a moment she caught something in them. A flash of heat, quickly buried beneath ice. Then let me be perfectly clear, Mr. Bruce. She kept her voice soft, but her words carried steel. I don't want your heart. I don't need your love. What I need is your business acumen and your company's resources. Nothing more. He studied her face for a long moment, as if searching for any sign of deception. And what makes you so certain you won't fall in love with me, Miss Wren? Many women have tried to break through my walls." A smile curved her lips, sharp as a blade. "Because, Mr. Bruce, while you've sworn never to love again, I've never believed in love in the first place. Business is my true passion. Always has been, always will be." Something shifted in his expression, surprise perhaps, or recognition of a kindred spirit. He stepped back, creating a professional distance between them once more. "Then we understand each other perfectly." He gathered the signed contracts, his movements precise and controlled. "The wedding will be arranged for next month, small, elegant, but public enough to satisfy the shareholders." Perfect. Marissa collected her portfolio, using the moment to steady her racing pulse. "Will that be all, Mr. Bruce?" He opened the door for her, ever the consummate gentleman. "Just one thing, Miss Wren. Since we'll be married soon, you might as well call me Stephen." She paused in the doorway, looking up at him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Very well, Stephen. But remember, this arrangement works both ways. The Ice Queen of Seattle's legal world didn't earn her nickname by accident." "Is that a warning, Marissa?" The way he said her name sent an involuntary shiver down her spine. "Consider it a reminder. You're not the only one who knows how to keep their heart locked away." With that, she stepped into the hallway, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she walked away. Stephen watched her go, his expression unreadable. Only the slight tightening of his jaw betrayed any emotion as he closed the door, leaving him alone with the sound of rain against the windows and the lingering scent of her perfume in the air. Neither of them could have known that this was the beginning, not just of their arrangement, but of a battle between duty and desire that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, trust, and the careful walls they'd built around their hearts. Chapter 2. Wedding Bells and Warning Signs. The St. James Cathedral stood like a silent sentinel against Seattle's twilight sky, its Gothic spires reaching toward clouds tinged pink and gold by the setting sun. Inside, hundreds of white orchids and roses transformed the ancient stones into something out of a fairy tale. Not that Marissa Wren believed in fairy tales, especially not today, on her wedding day. She stood before the full-length mirror in the bride's chamber, studying her reflection with a critical eye. The wedding dress was a masterpiece of understated elegance. Ivory silk that seemed to flow like water, with a neckline that suggested rather than revealed, and a train that whispered against the floor with every movement. Her dark hair was swept up in an intricate design, decorated with tiny diamonds that caught the light like trapped stars. "You look perfect," her mother said from the doorway, her voice tight with emotion. "Though I never thought you'd marry like this." Marissa met her mother's eyes in the mirror. "The company needs this, Mom. You know that. The company needs a merger. It doesn't need you to sacrifice your chance at real love." A knock at the door saved Marissa from responding. Her father entered, distinguished in his tuxedo, his face a mixture of pride and concern. "It's time, sweetheart." As they walked toward the cathedral's main sanctuary, Marissa's thoughts drifted to Stephen. They hadn't seen each other since signing the contract a month ago, communicating only through their lawyers and wedding planners. She wondered if he felt the same strange mixture of anticipation and dread that churned in her stomach. The massive wooden doors opened, and the first notes of the wedding march filled the air. Marissa gripped her father's arm, drawing strength from his steady presence. The guests rose, Seattle's elite, business partners, shareholders, all watching with calculating eyes as she began her walk down the aisle. And then she saw Stephen. He stood at the altar like a statue carved from marble, his black tuxedo emphasizing the breadth of his shoulders and the lean strength of his frame. His face was composed, revealing nothing, but as their eyes met, something flickered in his gaze, something that made her breath catch and her steps falter for just a moment. Her father squeezed her arm gently, steadying her. The walk seemed to take forever, and no time at all before she stood beside Stephen, close enough to catch the subtle scent of his cologne. "You look stunning," he murmured, his voice pitched for her ears alone. "Thank you," she whispered back. "You clean up rather well yourself." A ghost of a smile touched his lips before disappearing as the priest began the ceremony. They exchanged traditional vows. Neither of them had wanted to write their own, knowing any personal touches would be lies. When Stephen slipped the ring onto her finger, his touch lingered a fraction longer than necessary, sending an unexpected shiver down her spine. The reception was held at the Olympic Hotel, its grand ballroom transformed into a winter wonderland of crystal and silver. Marissa played her part perfectly, smiling at all the right moments, dancing with the right people, her hand resting just so on Stephen's arm when photographers were near. "You're quite the actress," Stephen observed during their first dance, his hand warm against the small of her back. "I could say the same about you." She smiled up at him, maintaining their picture-perfect image. That speech about looking forward to our future together was particularly convincing. His fingers tightened slightly on her waist. "Who says it wasn't true?" "Our company's future together is quite promising." "Ah, yes, the only future you care about." She let him spin her out and back, their bodies moving in perfect synchronization. "Tell me, do you practice being this cold, or does it come naturally?" "About as naturally as your Ice Queen persona, I'd imagine." His voice held an edge now. "Though I have to wonder what you're hiding beneath all that frost." Marissa's smile never wavered, though her heart rate picked up. "Nothing that concerns you. Everything about you concerns me now." His eyes locked with hers. "We're married, Marissa. Like it or not, your masks are my business." "As yours are mine," she challenged. "Shall we discuss what you're hiding behind that wall of yours?" The dance ended before he could respond, and they were swept into another round of congratulations and photographs. Hours passed in a blur of champagne toasts and careful conversations, until finally, mercifully, it was time to leave. Their suite at the Olympic Hotel occupied the entire top floor, offering panoramic views of the city and Puget Sound beyond. Marissa entered first, kicking off her heels with a sigh of relief. Her wedding dress rustled as she moved to the windows, watching lights twinkle across the water. Stephen followed, closing the door with a soft click that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. He removed his bow tie and jacket, dropping them onto a nearby chair. "You can stop looking so nervous," he said, his voice rough. "I meant what I said about separate bedrooms." Marissa turned, annoyance flashing in her eyes. "I'm not nervous. I'm wondering if you actually believe your own lies." He froze in the act of unbuttoning his cuffs. "Excuse me?" "Your vow never to love again. It's not about protecting yourself. It's about punishing yourself." She met his gaze unflinchingly. "And maybe punishing every woman who dares to get close." Stephen's expression darkened as he crossed the room, stopping inches from her. The heat of his body seemed to radiate through the space between them, making her skin tingle with awareness. "Don't pretend to understand me, Marissa." His voice was dangerously soft. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough to recognize a man running from his own heart." She tilted her chin up, refusing to back down. "Tell me, Stephen, what scares you more? The possibility of loving again, or the possibility that you already do?" His hands shot out, gripping her arms. For a moment, she thought he might shake her or kiss her. Instead, he held her there, his breathing ragged, his eyes burning into hers. "You think you're so clever," he said, his voice rough. "Reading people, finding their weaknesses. But you've made one crucial mistake." "And what's that?" "You assume I have a heart to run from." His grip tightened fractionally. I burned that bridge 5 years ago, and I won't rebuild it. Not for you, not for anyone." Marissa laughed softly, the sound lacking any humor. "Then why are you touching me like you can't let go?" Stephen released her as if burned, taking several steps back. The loss of his touch left her feeling strangely bereft, though she'd never admit it. "This was a mistake," he muttered, running a hand through his hair. "Which part? The marriage or the moment of weakness?" His eyes snapped to hers, filled with something that looked dangerously like desire. "Both, neither. I don't know anymore." Marissa moved past him, gathering her overnight bag. "Well, when you figure it out, I'll be in my room. Good night, husband." She was almost to the bedroom door when his voice stopped her. "Marissa." She paused but didn't turn. "Yes?" "You're wrong about me punishing every woman who gets close." She heard him move closer, felt the heat of him behind her. "Just the ones who make me feel something I shouldn't." Her hand tightened on the doorknob. "And what do I make you feel, Stephen?" The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words and denied desires. "Nothing," he finally said, but his voice was hoarse. "You make me feel nothing at all." Marissa smiled sadly, still facing the door. "Then we're both liars, aren't we?" She entered her room without looking back, closing the door softly behind her. Only then did she allow herself to lean against it, her heart racing as she listened to his footsteps retreat to the other bedroom. Outside, Seattle's lights continued to twinkle, oblivious to the war being waged between duty and desire in the suite above. And if both bride and groom lay awake that night, thinking of the electric tension between them and the lies they'd told themselves, well, that was nobody's business but their own. Chapter 3. Dangerous Territory. 3 months into their marriage of convenience, nothing about Marissa's life felt convenient anymore. The careful distance she and Stephen had maintained since their wedding night was crumbling, replaced by something far more dangerous: familiarity. Despite their separate bedrooms in the sprawling penthouse overlooking Lake Washington, they'd fallen into domestic patterns neither had anticipated. Shared dinners had become a nightly ritual, ostensibly to discuss business matters, but increasingly filled with charged silences and heated debates that had nothing to do with their company's merger. Tonight, Marissa was running late. A complex corporate case had kept her in court hours longer than expected, and Seattle's notorious traffic hadn't helped. When she finally entered the penthouse, still in her courtroom attire, a navy powersuit that emphasized her curves while maintaining professional authority, she found Stephen at the dining table, a glass of wine in hand, and tension evident in his shoulders. "You're late," he remarked, his voice deceptively casual. The evening light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows caught the silver at his temples, reminding her that despite his youth, he carried the weight of experience. "Unlike some people, I actually have to work for my success." She dropped her briefcase by the door, missing his flinch as she kicked off her heels. Her feet ached after hours of standing in court, but she refused to show any weakness. Stephen's fingers tightened around his wineglass. "Is that what you think? That I was handed everything? Weren't you?" Marissa moved to the bar, pouring herself a generous glass of red wine. "The mighty Stephen Bruce, born with a silver spoon and an ice-cold heart. Tell me, did you practice that boardroom glare in the mirror, or did it come naturally with the trust fund?" He stood so abruptly his chair scraped against the hardwood floor. "You want to know why I'm so cold?" His voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. "Because the last woman I trusted used me to steal half my company's patents. She played me for a fool, and I swore never to love again." Marissa finished, turning to face him. "Yes, I know the story. It's practically required reading in Seattle's social circles. Poor Stephen Bruce, betrayed by love, now frozen in his tower of steel and glass." She took a deliberate sip of wine. "But you're not the only one with scars, Stephen." Something flickered in his eyes, interest perhaps, or recognition. He moved closer, his movements predatory. And what scars would those be, Mrs. Bruce? What wounds could the Ice Queen possibly carry? Marissa held her ground as he approached, though her pulse quickened. You think you have the monopoly on betrayal? On pain? She laughed softly, the sound lacking any humor. My first year of law school, I was engaged. He was brilliant, charming, everything I thought I wanted. Until I found out he was sleeping with my best friend, and half the female population of Harvard Law. Stephen stopped inches from her, close enough that she could see the flecks of silver in his eyes. And that's why you don't believe in love? No. She met his gaze steadily. That's why I learned to be careful. Why I don't believe in love is an entirely different story. Tell me. His voice had dropped lower, almost intimate. Marissa took another sip of wine, using the moment to steady herself. My mother was the romantic in the family. She believed in true love, soulmates, happily ever after. She also believed my father when he said his late nights at the office were just work. Believed him when he said his business trips couldn't be rescheduled. Believed him right up until his mistress showed up at our door, pregnant and demanding recognition. Stephen's expression shifted, something like understanding crossing his features. What happened? What always happens. Money changed hands, papers were signed, scandals were buried. Her smile was sharp as broken glass. And I learned that love is just another word for leverage, another weapon to be used against you. Is that what this is? He gestured between them. Another weapon in your arsenal. This? Marissa arched an eyebrow. This is business, remember. Your rules, not mine. Stephen's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. The wineglass trembled between them but didn't spill. Then why does it feel like war? The heat of his touch seemed to burn through her skin. Because you're fighting something, Stephen. The question is, what? You know what? His voice was rough. You've been pushing my boundaries since the day we met. No, she countered, setting down her wineglass without breaking eye contact. I've been revealing your lies. There's a difference. His grip tightened fractionally. I don't lie. Really? Marissa stepped closer, eliminating the last inches between them. Tell me you feel nothing when I'm near. Tell me your pulse doesn't race when I enter a room. Tell me you don't lie awake at night, wondering what I'm wearing on the other side of that wall between our bedrooms. Stephen's other hand came up to grasp her shoulder, whether to push her away or pull her closer, neither seemed sure. Stop. Why? Because I'm right. She placed her free hand against his chest, feeling his heart thundering beneath her palm. Because the great Stephen Bruce, who swore never to love again, can't stop thinking about his wife. This isn't love. His words came out strangled. This is madness. Is there a difference? For a moment she thought he might kiss her. His eyes dropped to her lips, his breathing ragged. The tension between them was a living thing, electric and dangerous. Then his phone rang, shattering the moment. Stephen released her abruptly, stepping back as if burned. He pulled out his phone, checking the screen. It's the Tokyo office. Marissa smoothed her skirt, trying to calm her racing heart. Of course it is. It's always something, isn't it? He paused with the phone halfway to his ear. Marissa! Save it. She gathered her wineglass and briefcase. I have briefs to review anyway. Enjoy your call. She was halfway to her room when his voice stopped her. You're right. Marissa turned, finding him still standing by the bar, phone forgotten in his hand. About what? I do lie awake at night. His voice was low, intense, and it's driving me crazy. The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Marissa felt her breath catch, but she forced herself to maintain her composure. Then maybe you should do something about it. Like what? She smiled, slow and deliberate. That's your decision to make, Stephen. But remember, you're not the only one lying awake at night. With that, She disappeared into her room, leaving him standing there with his phone ringing and desire burning in his veins. The wall between their bedrooms had never felt thinner, nor the space between duty and desire more treacherous. In her room, Marissa leaned against the door, her heart pounding. She could hear Stephen's voice through the wall, speaking rapid-fire Japanese to his Tokyo office. The familiar sound was both comforting and maddening, a reminder of the careful distance they maintained and the growing heat that threatened to consume it. She moved to her window, looking out over the lights of Seattle. Below, boats moved across Lake Washington like stars fallen to earth, their lights twinkling in the darkness. The city spread before her, a tapestry of light and shadow, much like the man in the next room, a puzzle of contradictions she was only beginning to understand. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Stephen, dinner tomorrow? We should talk." Marissa stared at the message, feeling the weight of everything unspoken behind those simple words. After a long moment, she typed back, "Dangerous territory, Mr. Bruce." His response came quickly. "I'm beginning to think everywhere is dangerous territory with you." She smiled despite herself, typing one last message before setting her phone aside. "Only if you're afraid of getting burned." Through the wall, she heard his sharp intake of breath, followed by the sound of something, maybe a glass, being set down hard. The Tokyo call continued, but there was a new tension in his voice, an edge that hadn't been there before. Marissa changed out of her court attire, selecting a silk nightgown that made her feel both powerful and vulnerable. As she prepared for bed, she couldn't help wondering what Stephen would think if he saw her like this. Not the ice queen of the courtroom or the perfect society wife, but just Marissa, with all her walls temporarily lowered. The thought was dangerous, seductive, and exactly the kind of thinking she'd sworn to avoid. Yet, as she slipped between cool sheets, she found herself listening to the sounds from the next room, the murmur of Stephen's voice, the occasional creak of floorboards as he paced, the soft thud of a door closing. Sleep was a long time coming that night, and when it did, her dreams were filled with steel-grey eyes and hands that burned like fire against her skin. In the morning, she would tell herself it meant nothing, that this growing attraction was just biology, just proximity and convenience, creating an illusion of connection. But in the darkness, with only the city lights for company, she allowed herself to wonder if perhaps they were both lying about more than just their feelings. If perhaps the very things they claimed to guard against, love, vulnerability, connection, were exactly what they were tumbling helplessly toward, despite all their carefully constructed defenses. The night stretched on, and somewhere in the penthouse, two people lay awake, separated by a wall and united by the same burning question. How long could they maintain this careful dance before something or someone broke? Chapter 4. The Breaking Point. The annual Seattle Children's Hospital Charity Gala was the crown jewel of the city's social calendar, transforming the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic Hotel into a glittering wonderland of crystal and candlelight. For Stephen Bruce, it should have been a simple evening. Smile for the cameras, write a large check, maintain the perfect facade of marital bliss with Marissa. But nothing about this evening would prove simple. He stood at the base of the grand staircase, checking his watch for the third time in as many minutes. Marissa had insisted on arriving separately, claiming a last-minute court appearance would delay her. Now, as he nursed a scotch and deflected questions about his wife's whereabouts, he was beginning to wonder if she'd planned this. Another move in their endless chess game of attraction and denial. The whispers reached him before he saw her. A ripple of murmurs moved through the crowd, heads turning toward the top of the staircase. Stephen followed their gaze and felt his world tilt on its axis. Marissa stood at the landing, a vision in deep burgundy silk, that seemed to flow like wine over her curves. The dress was a masterpiece of suggestion, a high neckline in front that plunged dramatically in back, revealing the elegant line of her spine. Her dark hair was swept up, exposing the graceful curve of her neck, and diamonds glinted at her ears, his wedding gift, though she'd never worn them until tonight. She descended the stairs with practiced grace, her eyes scanning the crowd until they found his. The slight curve of her lips suggested she knew exactly what effect she was having. On him, on everyone. Stephen forced himself to breathe normally as she approached. The scent of her perfume reached him first, something exotic and intoxicating that made his head spin. "You're late," he managed, his voice rougher than he intended. "Am I?" Marissa accepted a champagne flute from a passing waiter. "I hadn't noticed. That dress—" He trailed off, unable to find words that wouldn't betray him. "Do you like it?" She turned slowly, giving him the full effect. "I thought it appropriate for a charity event. After all—" She leaned closer, her lips brushing his ear. "It's all about making people want to give." Stephen's hand flexed on his scotch glass. "Are we still talking about charity? What else would we be talking about?" Her innocent tone was belied by the knowing look in her eyes. "Dance with me." It wasn't a request. Stephen set down his glass, knowing he should refuse. Bad idea. "Afraid you might feel something?" She was already moving toward the dance floor, knowing he would follow. He did, of course. He always did. His hand caught her waist, pulling her into the traditional frame as the orchestra played a slow waltz. The silk of her dress was cool beneath his palm, but her skin burned hot where his fingers touched bare back. "I feel nothing," he lied, guiding her through the steps with practiced ease. Liar. She pressed closer, her body molding to his in a way that made his breath catch. "Your body betrays you, Stephen. Your heart is racing." "And yours isn't?" His thumb stroked the bare skin of her back, feeling her shiver. "Your pulse is racing too, Marissa. I can feel it here." He brushed the sensitive spot at the base of her throat. "That's just biology." But her voice was breathless. "Chemical reactions, nothing more." "Is that what you tell yourself at night?" He spun her out and back, using the momentum to pull her even closer. "When you lie awake thinking about me?" Her eyes darkened. "You're very sure of yourself." "I'm sure about what I see in your eyes when you look at me." His lips brushed her temple, feeling her sharp intake of breath. "What I hear in your voice when you're trying to convince yourself you don't want me." "Want has nothing to do with it," but her fingers tightened on his shoulder. "This is just proximity, convenience." "Is it?" His hand slid lower on her back. "Proprietary. Then why did you choose this dress? Why wear my diamonds? Why arrive late, ensuring every eye would be on you, including mine?" Marissa's laugh was shaky. "Maybe I just enjoy making you uncomfortable." "Oh, I'm very comfortable." He demonstrated by pulling her impossibly closer, their bodies moving as one to the music. "The question is, are you?" The orchestra switched to a slower piece, the kind that required partners to move closer still. Around them, other couples swayed to the romantic melody, but Stephen and Marissa might as well have been alone in the ballroom. "You're playing a dangerous game," she whispered, her fingers toying with the hair at his nape. "I'm not playing anything." His voice was low, intense. "For once, I'm being completely honest." "Are you?" She looked up at him through dark lashes. "Then be honest about this. What do you want from me, Stephen?" The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Stephen's hand tightened on her waist as images flashed through his mind. Marissa in his bed, her hair spread across his pillows, her body arching beneath his. "Everything," he growled, the word torn from him. "Nothing." I don't know anymore. Her breath hitched. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He spun them toward the edge of the dance floor, away from prying eyes. You've gotten under my skin, Marissa, into my blood. Every time I think I've got my control back, you do something like this. His fingers traced the bare skin of her back. And I lose my mind all over again. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Her hand slid from his shoulder to his chest, resting over his thundering heart. Maybe we both need to lose control once in a while. Stephen's other hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her lower lip. Don't tempt me. Why not? Her tongue darted out to wet her lips, brushing his thumb. Isn't that what wives are supposed to do? Tempt their husbands? A growl rumbled in his chest. This isn't a game, Marissa. No. She pressed closer, her body flush against his. Then what is it? Instead of answering, he steered them off the dance floor and through the French doors onto a private balcony. The Seattle night enveloped them, cool and misty, but neither noticed the temperature. What are you doing? Marissa's voice was breathy as he backed her against the stone balustrade. Being honest, his hands framed her face, tilting it up to his. You want to know what this is? It's madness. It's fire in my veins every time you're near. It's lying awake at night, wanting you so badly I can't breathe. Her hands fisted in his lapels. Stephen, tell me to stop. His lips hovered inches from hers. Tell me you don't feel it too. I can't. The words were barely a whisper. God help me, I can't. The last thread of his control snapped. His mouth claimed hers in a kiss that was nothing like the chaste peck they'd shared at their wedding. This was heat and hunger, and months of denied desire exploding between them. Marissa made a soft sound of surrender that nearly undid him, her lips parting beneath his as her arms wound around his neck. Stephen kissed her like a man starving, one hand tangling in her hair while the other splayed across her bare back, pulling her closer. She met his passion with her own, nipping at his lower lip until he groaned. We should stop, she gasped when they finally broke for air. Should we? His lips traced a burning path down her neck. Is that what you want? No. Her head fell back, giving him better access. God, no! Then don't ask me to. He reclaimed her mouth, pouring all his confusion and desire and need into the kiss. Marissa responded in kind, her body melting into his as if they'd been made for this moment. A burst of laughter from the ballroom jolted them back to reality. They broke apart, both breathing heavily, their careful facades completely shattered. This changes everything, Marissa whispered, her lips swollen from his kisses. Stephen rested his forehead against hers, trying to steady his racing heart. It changes nothing, it can't. Why not? Her fingers traced his jaw. We're married. This is allowed. Because... He pulled back, running a hand through his disheveled hair. I can't give you what you deserve. I can't be what you need. What if what I need is this? She gestured between them. What if what I deserve is the truth instead of these careful lies we keep telling ourselves? The truth? He laughed harshly. The truth is that I want you more than I've ever wanted anyone. The truth is that you make me forget every vow I've ever made. The truth is that this us terrifies me more than anything ever has. Marissa's eyes softened. Stephen, don't. He stepped back, creating distance between them. Don't look at me like that, like you understand, like you can fix what's broken in me. I'm not trying to fix you. She reached for him, but he moved away. I'm trying to understand why you're so determined to punish yourself and me for feelings neither of us can control. Because control is all I have left. The words exploded from him. After Caroline destroyed everything I thought I knew about love, control became my armor. And you, he raked his hands through his hair, you make me lose control just by existing. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. she said softly. Maybe sometimes we need to lose control to find something better. Stephen stared at her, illuminated by moonlight and city lights, more beautiful and dangerous than he'd ever seen her. I can't, he finally said. I'm sorry, but I can't. He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. Coward. He froze. What did you say? You heard me. Her voice was steel, wrapped in silk. You're a coward, Stephen Bruce. You're so afraid of getting hurt again that you'd rather live half a life than risk feeling something real. He whirled back to face her, anger and desire warring in his expression. You think this is about fear? This is about survival. Love destroyed me once. I won't let it happen again. No. Marissa stepped closer, her eyes blazing. Your ex-fiancé didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourself. You're so busy building walls that you can't see what's right in front of you. And what's that? A woman who understands broken hearts, who knows all about walls and fears and trust issues, who isn't asking for forever, just for now. The words hung between them, heavy with possibility. Stephen's hands clenched at his sides, every muscle in his body straining toward her. Just for now, he repeated, his voice rough. And when now ends? When this burns itself out, then we'll deal with it. She closed the distance between them, placing her hand over his heart. But don't we deserve to know what this could be? Don't we deserve a chance at something real? Stephen covered her hand with his, feeling the warmth of her skin through his shirt. You make everything sound so simple. It is simple. She rose on tiptoe, brushing her lips against his jaw. Stop thinking. Stop analyzing. Just feel. His control shattered. With a growl, he pulled her back into his arms, claiming her mouth in a kiss that left no doubt about his feelings. Marissa melted against him, her body fitting perfectly against his, as if they'd been designed for each other. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Stephen rested his forehead against hers. This is insane. Completely. She smiled, running her fingers through his hair. But isn't that what makes it worth the risk? Instead of answering, he kissed her again, pouring all his confusion and desire and need into the contact. And if anyone noticed that the Ice Queen and her frozen king left the gala early, their clothes slightly disheveled, and their eyes bright with something that looked suspiciously like hope, well, that was nobody's business but their own. Chapter 5. First Taste of Fire. The night everything changed started with a thunderstorm. Seattle's sky had opened up shortly after they'd left the gala, forcing them to abandon their plans for a walk along the waterfront. Instead, they'd returned to their penthouse, the air between them crackling with as much electricity as the storm outside. Marissa had retreated to the library, claiming she needed to review case files. In reality, she needed space to think, to process the seismic shift that had occurred on that balcony. She'd settled into Stephen's favorite leather chair, but the legal documents in her lap went unread as she watched lightning illuminate the city skyline. Hours passed, and somewhere between reviewing precedents and listening to the rain, she dozed off. The case file slid from her lap, papers scattering across the Persian rug as sleep claimed her. Stephen found her there close to midnight, having spent hours in his home office, trying and failing to focus on work. He'd meant to head straight to his bedroom, to maintain the careful distance they'd cultivated over months of marriage. Instead, he found himself drawn to the library's soft lamplight, to the sight of his wife curled in his chair. She looked different in sleep, softer, more vulnerable. Her evening gown had been replaced by silk pajamas in deep blue, and her carefully styled hair had come loose, dark strands falling across her face. Without thinking, he reached out to brush them back, The moment his fingers touched her cheek, her eyes fluttered open. Stephen. His name on her lips, rough with sleep, did something to his chest. You fell asleep, reviewing cases. Marissa straightened, becoming aware of their positions, her in his chair, him leaning over her, his hand still hovering near her face. I should go to bed. Yes, he agreed, but didn't move. You should. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating her face. In that brief, brilliant moment, he saw everything she tried to hide behind her Ice Queen facade. Desire, uncertainty, hope. What happened next was inevitable as the thunder that followed. His lips found hers, or perhaps she reached for him first. It didn't matter. All that mattered was the taste of her, the soft sound she made when he pulled her against him, the way her fingers threaded through his hair. Stephen, she gasped when they broke for air. What are we doing? Breaking all our rules. He kissed her again, deeper this time, years of denied passion pouring out. Tell me to stop. Instead of answering, she used her grip on his hair to pull him closer. The kiss turned hungry, desperate, months of tension finally finding release. When she bit his lower lip, he growled, lifting her from the chair in one smooth motion. Marissa's legs wrapped around his waist instinctively, her silk pajamas sliding against his dress shirt. The papers. Leave them. He was already carrying her toward the door, pausing only to press her against the library wall for another searing kiss. They can wait. Everything can wait, she agreed, her lips trailing fire down his neck. Except this. Us. They barely made it to his bedroom, leaving a trail of clothing in their wake. His tie in the hallway, her silk top by his door, his shirt somewhere between. Each new expanse of revealed skin demanded exploration, each touch igniting fresh fires. Stephen laid her on his bed with more gentleness than she expected, given the hunger in his eyes. You're beautiful, he breathed, taking in the sight of her against his dark sheets. So damn beautiful. Marissa reached for him, pulling him down to her. Show me, she whispered against his lips. Show me what you've been holding back all these months. He did. Oh, how he did. Later, much later, they lay tangled in his sheets, the storm still raging outside. Marissa traced lazy patterns on his chest, feeling his heart gradually slow beneath her palm. We should talk about this, she murmured, though she made no move to leave the warmth of his embrace. Should we? His fingers drew circles on her bare shoulder. Or should we just accept that some forces are beyond our control? She propped herself up on an elbow to look at him, like thunderstorms, like chemistry. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch lingering. Like whatever this is between us. And what is this? She held his gaze, needing to understand. Just physical attraction? Convenience? Stephen's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. You know it's more than that. Do I? Her voice wavered slightly. Because a few hours ago, you were running away from this, from us, as fast as you could. He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers still stroking her skin. Do you know what scared me most on that balcony? What? How right it felt. His eyes held hers, more vulnerable than she'd ever seen them. Kissing you, holding you, it felt like coming home, and that terrified me. Marissa's breath caught. Why? Because home means letting down your guard. It means giving someone the power to hurt you. His voice roughened. And you already have more power over me than anyone ever has. She leaned down to kiss him softly. I'm not Caroline. I won't hurt you like she did. I know. He pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. That's not what scares me anymore. Then what does? The fact that I'm starting to believe in something I swore was impossible. His arms tightened around her. "The fact that you make me want things I gave up on years ago." Marissa's heart raced at the implications. "Like what?" "Like this." He rolled them over, pinning her beneath him. "Like waking up with you in my arms. Like letting myself feel something real instead of hiding behind contracts and conditions." She reached up to trace his features, memorizing them by touch. "And is that such a bad thing?" "It's terrifying." He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "But maybe that's what makes it worth the risk." Lightning flashed outside, casting dramatic shadows across their entwined forms. In that brief illumination, Marissa saw something in Stephen's eyes that made her breath catch. Something that looked dangerously like love. "Stay with me tonight," he murmured, his lips brushing her temple. "No more separate bedrooms. No more pretending we don't want this." "Are you sure?" She needed to know this wasn't just passion talking. "Once we cross this line, Stephen, there's no going back." His answer was to kiss her, slow and deep and thorough, until she was melting beneath him. "I don't want to go back," he breathed against her lips. "I want to go forward. With you." Marissa wrapped herself around him, her body fitting perfectly against his. "Then show me again," she whispered. "Show me what forward looks like." Outside, the storm raged on, but neither of them noticed. They were too lost in their own storm, in the discovery of each other, in the realization that sometimes the most dangerous territory is the landscape of the heart. Hours later, as false dawn began to lighten the sky, they finally slept. Marissa's head rested on Stephen's chest, his arms wrapped protectively around her, their legs tangled beneath the sheets. The wall between their bedrooms had never seemed more unnecessary, nor the space between duty and desire more beautifully blurred. As morning approached, neither stirred. They had found something in the night, something that transcended their careful arrangements and logical plans, something that felt like destiny, like inevitability, like the first taste of a fire that would either forge them stronger or burn them both to ash. Only time would tell which it would be. But for now, in the quiet hours before dawn, they slept. And if their dreams were filled with each other, with promises unspoken and futures newly possible, well, that was nobody's business but their own. The storm had passed, but its effects would linger. In the morning, they would have to face the consequences of their night together, would have to decide if this new intimacy was worth the risk of heartbreak. But that was for later. For now, they slept, wrapped in each other's arms, their hearts beating in sync, their bodies and souls, finally, perfectly aligned. And in their sleep, they smiled, as if sharing the same beautiful dream, a dream of love reborn from the ashes of broken promises and shattered vows. Chapter 6. Aftermath. Morning brought clarity, and with it, complications. Marissa woke alone in Stephen's bed, the sheets beside her still warm, but empty. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seattle sparkled under a fresh blanket of morning fog, the storm's aftermath lending everything a dreamlike quality. For a moment, she let herself remember the night before. The thunder, the kisses, the way Stephen had looked at her as if she were something precious and dangerous all at once. Her body still hummed with the memory of his touch, but her mind was already racing ahead to the implications. The sound of the shower running in his ensuite bathroom told her he hadn't gone far, but the empty bed spoke volumes. Stephen Bruce, master of control, was already retreating. Marissa slipped from the bed, gathering her scattered clothing with practiced efficiency. Her silk pajama top was somewhere in the hallway, she remembered, cheeks flushing at the memory of how it got there. She borrowed one of Stephen's dress shirts instead, the fabric swimming on her frame but smelling tantalizingly of him. She was halfway to the door when his voice stopped her. Running away? She turned to find him in the bathroom doorway, a towel slung low on his hips, water still beading on his chest. The sight made her mouth go dry. "Not running," she managed. "Just giving you space to process your regrets." His eyes darkened. "Is that what you think last night was? A regret? Isn't it?" She gestured to the empty bed. "You couldn't get away fast enough this morning. I was making calls to clear my schedule." He moved closer, and she fought the urge to step back. "I thought we could talk." "Talk?" She gave a hollow laugh. "Now you want to talk, after months of avoiding any real conversation about what's between us?" "Marissa, no." She held up a hand. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to act like last night changed everything when we both know you'll just build your walls higher." Stephen ran a hand through his damp hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "So this is your solution? Pretend it never happened. Isn't that your specialty?" The words came out sharper than intended. "Pretending feelings don't exist, that attraction is just chemistry, that love is—" "Don't." He closed the distance between them in 2 strides. "Don't tell me what I feel. Then tell me yourself." She tilted her chin up, meeting his gaze defiantly. "Tell me last night meant nothing. Tell me you can walk away from this, from us, and never look back." Instead of answering, he kissed her. It was different from last night's kisses, not gentle or passionate, but almost angry. His hands tangled in her hair as he backed her against the wall, his body pressing into hers until she couldn't tell where she ended, and he began. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "Does that feel like nothing?" His voice was rough. "Does that feel like something I can walk away from?" Marissa's hands were still gripping his shoulders, her nails leaving half-moon marks in his skin. "Then why are you fighting it so hard?" "Because I can't want you like this." The words exploded from him as he pushed away, pacing the room like a caged animal. "I can't need you this much. It's not safe." "Safe?" She laughed incredulously. "When has love ever been safe?" They both froze at the word. Love. It hung in the air between them, impossible to take back. "I don't do love," Stephen said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. "You knew that from the start." "No." Marissa straightened, squaring her shoulders. "I knew you were afraid of love. There's a difference." "I'm not afraid, aren't you?" She moved toward him slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. "You're so terrified of feeling something real that you'd rather push me away than admit last night meant something." Of course it meant something. He whirled to face her, his control finally cracking. "It meant everything, and that's exactly why I can't—" He broke off, running his hands through his hair. "Can't what?" she pressed, needing to hear it. "Can't let myself believe in this." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "In us." Marissa's heart ached at the pain in his voice. Slowly, giving him time to pull away, she stepped closer. "Why not?" "Because the last time I believed in love, it nearly destroyed me." He didn't move away as she approached, though she could see him trembling with the effort to maintain control. "I can't go through that again." "You think I'm not scared too?" She placed her hand on his chest, feeling his heart race beneath her palm. "You think I'm not terrified of how much I feel for you?" His hands came up to cover hers. "Then why are you pushing this?" "Because some things are worth the risk." She rose on tiptoe, brushing her lips against his jaw. "Because what I feel for you is bigger than my fear." Stephen's arms wrapped around her automatically, pulling her closer. "And if it all falls apart, then we fall together." She looked up at him, letting him see everything she felt. "But at least we'll know we were brave enough to try." For a long moment he just stared at her, something shifting in his eyes. Then, with a sound that was half groan and half surrender, he kissed her. This kiss was different from all the others. Not desperate or angry or passionate, but tender, as if he was finally letting himself feel everything he'd been holding back. When they broke apart, Marissa saw tears in his eyes. "I can't promise you forever," he whispered. "I don't know if I even believe in forever anymore. I'm not asking for forever. She wiped away a tear that had escaped down his cheek. "I'm just asking for now, for a chance to see what this could be." He pressed his forehead to hers, breathing her in. "And if I can't be what you need, if I'm too broken, too damaged, then we'll figure it out together." She kissed him softly. "Besides, haven't you noticed? My edges are just as sharp as yours. Maybe that's why we fit so well." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "When did you get so wise?" "Somewhere between falling into your bed and falling for you." The words slipped out before she could stop them, but she didn't regret them. Stephen's breath caught. For a moment, she thought he might pull away again. Instead, he gathered her closer, burying his face in her hair. "Stay," he murmured. "Not just for now, not just for tonight. Stay with me." "For how long?" "For as long as we can make this work." He pulled back to look at her, his eyes vulnerable but determined. "I can't promise you forever, but I can promise you everything I have to give." Marissa's heart swelled. "That's all I'm asking for." This time when he kissed her, it felt like sealing a pact, like crossing a bridge and burning it behind them, leaving no path of retreat. Later, much later, they lay tangled in his sheets again, the morning sun painting patterns across their skin. Marissa traced the lines of his face, memorizing every detail. "What are you thinking?" he asked, catching her hand and pressing a kiss to her palm. "That this changes everything. Does it have to?" She smiled, understanding what he was really asking. "The merger can still proceed as planned. The business side of our arrangement doesn't have to change, but everything else already has." She propped herself up on an elbow to look at him properly. "The question is, are you ready for that?" Stephen was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drawing patterns on her bare shoulder. "I don't know if I'll ever be ready," he finally admitted, "but I know I'm not ready to let you go." "Then don't." She settled back against his chest, feeling his arms tighten around her. "We'll figure out the rest as we go." Outside, Seattle was coming to life, the fog beginning to lift as the sun climbed higher. But in Stephen's bedroom, time seemed to stand still. They had crossed a line, burned their careful rules and rational plans, and emerged into something new and terrifying and beautiful. Only time would tell if they could maintain this delicate balance between heart and head, between passion and practicality. But for now they had this, the warmth of shared breath, the comfort of skin against skin, and the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, love wasn't such an impossible dream after all. Chapter 7. War of Hearts. Their marriage became a battlefield of stolen moments and denied feelings. The careful distance they'd maintained had shattered, replaced by an intimacy that was both intoxicating and terrifying. Every touch was a surrender, every kiss a declaration of war against the walls they'd built around their hearts. The transformation was most evident in their shared spaces. The penthouse that had once felt too large for two people now seemed to shrink with every passing day, charged with an electricity that made even casual encounters feel dangerous. Marissa noticed it most in the mornings. She'd wake to find Stephen watching her, his eyes dark with something that looked dangerously like adoration. Sometimes he'd reach for her, pulling her close for lazy kisses that inevitably turned heated. Other times he'd already be gone, leaving only the lingering warmth of his body in the sheets and a coffee cup waiting for her in the kitchen. Tonight she found him in his office, buried in work, despite the late hour. The merger between their companies was proceeding smoothly, but it required constant attention. She paused in the doorway, taking a moment to study him unobserved. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves, and his hair was disheveled from running his fingers through it, sure signs he'd been at it for hours. The sight made something in her chest tighten. "You're staring," he said, without looking up from his computer. You're working too hard. She moved into the room, perching on the edge of his desk. It's past midnight. The Tokyo market never sleeps. But he leaned back in his chair, his eyes traveling over her appreciatively. She'd changed into one of his dress shirts after her shower, the white fabric a stark contrast against her skin. The Tokyo market can wait. She reached out to loosen his tie further. You need rest. His hand caught hers, bringing it to his lips. What I need is you. Heat bloomed in her chest at the words, at the intensity in his gaze. You have me. Do I? He pulled her into his lap, one hand sliding beneath the shirt to stroke her bare thigh. Sometimes I wonder if this is all a dream, if I'll wake up tomorrow and find you've come to your senses. My senses. She wound her arms around his neck, pressing closer. I think I lost those the moment I married you. His laugh was rough. That was business. Was it? She nipped at his jaw. Or was it fate disguised as a merger? You don't believe in fate. His hands tightened on her hips as she shifted against him. I didn't believe in love either. She caught his gaze, holding it. You've made me question a lot of things, Stephen. Something flickered in his eyes, fear or hope, she couldn't tell. Tell me what you feel, he demanded softly. When I touch you, when I kiss you, tell me what's in your heart. Fire, she breathed, rocking against him. You make me burn. His control snapped. In one fluid motion he stood, lifting her onto his desk. Papers scattered, but neither noticed. His mouth claimed hers in a kiss that was pure possession, his hands already working at the buttons of her borrowed shirt. Tell me you feel nothing, she challenged between kisses, her fingers tangling in his hair. Tell me this is just physical. You know it's not. He traced burning kisses down her neck. You know what you do to me. Tell me. She needed to hear it, needed some confirmation that she wasn't alone in this madness. You drive me crazy. His words were punctuated by kisses, each one hotter than the last. You're in my blood, my thoughts, my dreams. I can't think straight when you're near me. Good. She pulled him closer, wrapping her legs around his waist. I don't want you thinking straight, I want you feeling. He groaned, his hands sliding up her thighs. What have you done to me, Marissa? What spell have you cast? The same one you've cast on me. She arched into his touch. Love. He stiffened at the word, his hands stilling on her skin. Don't. Why not? She cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Why are you still fighting this? Because love destroys. His voice was raw. Love betrays. Love leaves you hollow. Not all love. She kissed him softly, a contrast to their earlier passion. Not our love. Marissa. He tried to pull away, but she held him close. No more running. Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. No more hiding. Tell me what you feel. I feel anger. He kissed her hard. Frustration. Another kiss. Deeper. Need. What else? Hunger. His hands gripped her hips. Madness. His lips traced fire down her throat. Possession. But not love. She gasped as his teeth grazed a sensitive spot. He pulled back, his eyes dark with emotion. Never love. The word hung between them, a lie they both recognized. Marissa's heart ached at the fear she saw in his eyes, the desperate need to maintain some illusion of control. Coward, she whispered, but there was no heat in it, only understanding. Yes. His forehead pressed against hers. When it comes to you, to this, yes, I'm a coward. Then let me be brave enough for both of us. She kissed him softly. Let me show you that love doesn't have to destroy. Something broke in his expression. With a sound that was half growl, half sob, he gathered her close, kissing her with a desperation that took her breath away. Show me, he breathed against her lips. Show me what love should be. She did. Oh, How she did. Hours later, they lay tangled together on the leather couch in his office, their clothes scattered across the floor. Marissa traced lazy patterns on his chest, feeling his heart beat strong and steady beneath her palm. "We should move to the bedroom," he murmured, though he made no effort to release her. "Should we?" She pressed a kiss to his collarbone. "I rather like having you here, surrounded by all your symbols of control. Your desk, your files, your carefully ordered world." He chuckled, the sound rumbling through his chest. "All thrown into chaos by you. Good chaos." She propped herself up to look at him. His expression softened as he brushed hair from her face. "The best kind. Then why do you still look scared?" Stephen was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "Because I've never felt like this before. Not even with Caroline?" She finished when he faltered. "Yes." His arms tightened around her. "What I felt for her was simple, uncomplicated. This us, it's like standing on the edge of a cliff in a hurricane. And that terrifies you." "It terrifies me how much I love it." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Marissa's breath caught, but she forced herself to stay still, to not spook him with the magnitude of what he'd just admitted. The great Stephen Bruce, admitting he loves something. She kept her tone light. "Should I alert the media?" He pinched her side gently. "Brat. Your brat." She kissed the underside of his jaw. "And you love that too." Instead of denying it, he rolled them over, pinning her beneath him. "I love too many things about you. That's the problem." "That's not a problem." She wound her arms around his neck. "That's a beginning." His eyes searched hers, vulnerability warring with hope. "A beginning of what?" "Something real." She pulled him down for a kiss. "Something worth fighting for." And if their lovemaking after that was tinged with something that felt dangerously like forever, well, that was nobody's business but their own. Outside, Seattle's lights twinkled against the night sky, a constellation of possibilities. Inside, two people who had sworn never to love again found themselves breaking every vow, every rule, every carefully constructed wall. Their war of hearts wasn't over, not by a long shot. But perhaps, just perhaps, they were finally fighting on the same side. Chapter 8. Broken Vows. The crack in Stephen's armor came during a business trip to New York. They'd flown in on his private jet, ostensibly to meet with investors, but both knew it was more than that. After weeks of growing intimacy in Seattle, this trip felt like a test. Their first time away together, no business obligations to hide behind. The trouble started with a phone call. Marissa was in their suite at the plaza, surrounded by legal documents, when her sister called with the news. A rival company, Blackthorn Industries, had launched a hostile takeover attempt of Wren Maritime. "How bad is it?" Stephen asked, finding her still at her laptop hours later, her face illuminated by the screen's blue glow. "Bad." She didn't look up from the financial reports she was reviewing. "They've been quietly buying shares for months, working through shell companies. They already control 30%. He moved behind her, his hands coming to rest on her shoulders. "Let me help." "I can fix this." She shrugged off his touch, still scrolling through documents. "I don't need your help." "Marissa." His voice was different, softer than she'd ever heard it. "Let me help you." Something in his tone made her finally look up. What she saw in his eyes scared them both. Concern, protectiveness, and something deeper that neither was ready to name. "Why?" The question came out barely above a whisper. "Because," he struggled with the words, "because I can't watch you hurt." The simple admission hung between them, heavy with implications. Marissa's heart raced as she processed what he wasn't saying, that her pain had become his pain, that her battles were now his battles. It's my family's company, she said, but her voice wavered. My responsibility. And you're my wife. He knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in his. Your responsibilities are mine now, not because of our arrangement, not because of the merger, but because... He broke off, looking almost surprised by the intensity of his own feelings. Because what? She needed to hear it. Instead of answering, he kissed her. It was different from their usual passionate encounters. This was tender, almost reverent. When he pulled back, his eyes were fierce with determination. Because you're mine, he said simply. And I protect what's mine. Marissa's breath caught at the possessiveness in his voice. Stephen, let me make some calls. He was already pulling out his phone. I know people who owe me favors. We can start buying back shares through private holdings, counter their moves before they gain more ground. She watched him pace the suite, switching effortlessly between English, Japanese and Mandarin as he called in markers from across the globe. This was Stephen in his element, commanding, strategic, unstoppable. But there was something else too, an underlying urgency she'd never seen before. Hours passed in a blur of conference calls and emergency meetings. They ordered room service but barely touched it, too focused on the battle at hand. Around midnight, Stephen's phone lit up with a text. Got it. His smile was predatory. My contact at Goldman Sachs came through. They're willing to back us with enough capital to buy out Blackthorne's position at a premium. Marissa stared at him. That kind of backing. What did you have to promise them? Nothing they weren't already getting through our merger. He moved to the wet bar, pouring them both a celebratory scotch. Just had to adjust some timelines, guarantee certain returns. Stephen. She caught his arm as he handed her the glass. What aren't you telling me? He was quiet for a moment, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. I put up personal collateral. If the deal goes south, I lose controlling interest in Bruce Enterprises. The glass slipped from her fingers. Stephen caught it before it could shatter, setting both drinks aside. Are you insane? Marissa's voice shook. You could lose everything. No. His hands came up to frame her face. I could lose the company. There's a difference. But your company is everything to you. It's all you've worked for, all you've protected since Caroline. Stop. His thumb brushed her lips, silencing her. My company is not everything to me, not anymore. The implications of that statement hit her like a physical blow. Don't, she whispered. Don't say things you don't mean. When have I ever said anything I don't mean? His eyes held hers, unflinching. You've accused me of many things, Marissa, but lying has never been one of them. Then what are you saying? I'm saying that somewhere between our arrangement and this moment, my priorities changed. His voice was rough with emotion. I'm saying that the thought of you in pain, of you losing something you love, is worse than any financial loss I could face. Tears filled her eyes. That sounds an awful lot like love, Stephen. Maybe it is. He brushed away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. Maybe that's what terrifies me most. What? That you might love me? No. He pulled her closer until their foreheads touched. That I already do. The admission seemed to surprise him as much as her. For a moment they just stood there, breathing each other's air, letting the magnitude of his words sink in. Then Marissa kissed him. It was fierce and tender all at once, a physical manifestation of everything they'd been dancing around for months. Stephen responded with equal fervor, backing her toward the bedroom with single-minded intent. Wait, she gasped as his lips found her neck. The takeover can wait until morning. He was already working on the buttons of her blouse. Right now I need to show you exactly what you mean to me. Show me with words, she demanded, even as her body arched into his touch. No more hiding behind actions. Tell me what you feel." Stephen pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. What she saw there took her breath away. All his walls were down, leaving nothing but raw truth. "I love you," he said simply. "God help me, but I do. You've torn down every defense, broken every vow, made me question everything I thought I knew about love and trust and happiness." Tears spilled down Marissa's cheeks. "Say it again." "I love you." He kissed away her tears. "I love your brilliant mind and your fierce heart. I love how you challenge me, how you see through my facades, how you make me want to be better." "Stephen, I'm not finished." His hands cupped her face. "I love waking up with you in my arms. I love watching you work, seeing that fire in your eyes when you're fighting for something you believe in. I love that you made me break my vow never to love again, because loving you is the best thing that's ever happened to me." Marissa's heart felt too full, like it might burst from joy. "I love you too," she whispered, "so much it scares me sometimes." His smile was radiant. "Good scared or bad scared?" "The best kind of scared." She wound her arms around his neck, "The kind that makes me feel alive." Their kisses turned heated, clothes falling away as they stumbled toward the bed. Each touch was a confession, each caress a promise, each gasp a declaration of love too long denied. Later, much later, they lay tangled in the sheets, Marissa's head on Stephen's chest as he stroked her hair. "We should sleep," she murmured. "Early meeting tomorrow." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "One more thing first." "What's that?" "Marry me." She lifted her head to look at him, confused. "We're already married." "No." He sat up, pulling her with him. "Marry me for real. No contracts, no business arrangements, no convenience. Marry me because you love me and I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life showing you exactly how much." Fresh tears spilled down Marissa's cheeks. "Yes," she breathed. 1,000 times yes. His kiss tasted of joy and promise and forever. Outside, New York's lights twinkled like stars, bearing witness to a miracle. Two hearts once frozen, now thawed by the unexpected warmth of true love. The hostile takeover would be dealt with. The business empire would be protected, but none of that seemed to matter anymore. They had found something far more precious than corporate success or financial security. They had found home in each other's hearts. Chapter 9. The Fall. Their carefully constructed walls crumbled during a heated argument about the future of their marriage. They'd returned from New York triumphant, Blackthorn Industries' takeover attempt thwarted, Wren Maritime secure, and their love finally acknowledged. But old habits die hard, and Stephen's protective instincts kicked in the moment they landed in Seattle. Marissa found him in his home office, systematically dismantling the emotional progress they'd made in New York. He'd spent the day in back-to-back meetings, cancelling their dinner plans with a terse text about work obligations. "Enough." She stood in his doorway, still in her courtroom attire, her expression stormy. "We need to talk." Stephen didn't look up from his computer. "I'm busy." "You're hiding." She moved into the room, closing the door behind her with a decisive click. "And I want to know why." "I'm not hiding." His fingers continued typing, though tension radiated from his shoulders. "I'm working. Some of us still have a company to run. And some of us are tired of watching you retreat behind your walls." Marissa's voice carried an edge that finally made him look up. "What happened to everything you said in New York?" His expression shuttered. "Nothing happened. I meant every word." "Did you?" She perched on the edge of his desk, forcing him to acknowledge her presence. "Because the man who told me he loved me, who asked me to marry him for real, that man wouldn't be avoiding me." "I'm not avoiding you." But he wouldn't meet her eyes. "I'm protecting you." "From what?" From me. The words exploded from him as he pushed back from the desk, standing to pace the room. From this intensity between us, from the way I feel about you, from all of it. Marissa watched him move, her heart aching at the conflict evident in every line of his body. Admit it, she challenged softly. You're not keeping your vow because of Caroline. You're keeping it because you're already falling for me. You're delusional. Am I? She stood, moving to block his pacing. Then why did you risk Bruce Enterprises to save my family's company? Why do you watch me when you think I'm not looking? Why can't you sleep with anyone else? Because you're mine. The words exploded from him like bullets. Because the thought of anyone else touching you makes me crazy. Because I can't breathe when you're not near me. Because everything I've built, everything I've protected, means nothing compared to keeping you safe and happy. The confession hung in the air between them, raw and honest. Marissa's breath caught at the intensity in his eyes. That sounds an awful lot like love, Stephen. It's obsession. He ran his hands through his hair, already disheveled from the gesture being repeated throughout the day. Possession, not love. Keep telling yourself that. She stepped closer, invading his space. Keep pretending you don't feel what I feel. Keep building those walls higher and higher until you suffocate behind them. His hands shot out to grasp her arms. Whether to push her away or pull her closer, neither was sure. What do you want from me? The truth. She didn't back down from his intensity. No more games, no more denial. Tell me what you're really afraid of. You know what I'm afraid of. Tell me anyway. Her voice softened. Let me in, Stephen. All the way in. Something broke in his expression. I'm afraid of loving you more than I already do, he whispered. I'm afraid of how complete you make me feel, of how empty I am when you're not near. I'm afraid that if I let myself fall completely, I'll never recover when you leave. When I leave, Marissa's heart clenched. Why would I leave? Everyone leaves. His voice was raw with old pain. My mother left when I was 10. Caroline left with half my company's secrets. Even my father, the great Richard Bruce, he left me with a legacy of expectations and obligations, but never love. Understanding dawned. That's why you made that public vow never to love again. It wasn't just about Caroline, was it? It was about protecting yourself from ever being abandoned again. Stephen's grip on her arms loosened, his hands sliding down to tangle with hers. I've spent my whole life building walls, Marissa, creating a fortress around my heart that no one could breach. Then you came along with your sharp mind and sharper wit, and suddenly there were cracks in my defenses. Good. She squeezed his hands. Those walls were killing you, Stephen. They were keeping out pain, yes, but they were also keeping out joy, keeping out love. I told you in New York that I love you, he said quietly. I meant it, but loving you terrifies me more than anything ever has. Why? Because it's real. His forehead dropped to rest against hers. What I felt for Caroline was infatuation, young love. This is something else entirely. Something all-consuming. Something I couldn't survive losing. Marissa released his hands to frame his face, making him meet her eyes. Then it's a good thing you're never going to lose me. You can't promise that. I can promise that I love you. Her thumbs brushed his cheekbones. I can promise that I choose you every day, not because of any arrangement or obligation, but because you're the other half of my soul. I can promise that whatever comes, we face it together. Tears filled his eyes. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. She kissed him softly. You deserve love, Stephen. You deserve happiness. You deserve everything you've been denying yourself all these years. His control finally shattered. With a sound that was half sob, half growl, he pulled her into a kiss that was both desperate and tender. His hands tangled in her hair as he backed her toward his desk, needing to be closer, to feel her heart beating against his. "Tell me again," he breathed between kisses. "Tell me you love me." "I love you." She gasped as his lips found her neck. "I love your brilliant mind and your wounded heart. I love how fiercely you protect what's yours, how completely you love once you let yourself feel it." His hands were already working at the buttons of her blouse. "More. I love waking up in your arms." She helped him with the buttons, needing to feel his skin against hers. "I love watching you in meetings, all power and control, knowing that later you'll fall apart under my touch." Marissa. Her name was a prayer on his lips. "I love that you risked everything to protect my company." Papers scattered as he lifted her onto the desk. "I love that you asked me to marry you for real, that you want forever with me despite your fears." His movement stilled as he looked at her, really looked at her. "I do want forever," he admitted. "God help me, but I want everything with you." She smiled, tears of joy spilling down her cheeks. "Then take it. Take everything. I'm yours, Stephen, heart, body, and soul." The last barriers between them crumbled as they came together, their love-making both tender and passionate. Every touch was a promise, every kiss a declaration of love too long denied. Later, as they lay tangled together on the leather couch in his office, Marissa traced the strong lines of his face. "What are you thinking?" "That I've been a fool." He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "Fighting this, fighting us, when loving you is the most natural thing in the world. Does this mean you're done building walls?" His smile was tender. "The only walls I want are the ones around our home, protecting our life together." "Our home." She propped herself up to look at him. "Are you asking me to move in permanently?" "I'm asking for everything." His eyes held hers, serious now. "Move in with me. Let's have a real wedding, one that's about love instead of business. Let's build a life together, maybe even a family someday." Fresh tears spilled down Marissa's cheeks. "Are you sure?" "This is a lot of change for someone who swore never to love again." "I'm sure about you." He brushed away her tears. "I'm sure that loving you is the best decision I've ever made, even if it took me too long to admit it. I'm sure that I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me. Even if it means being vulnerable, taking risks. You're worth every risk." He pulled her closer, his voice rough with emotion. "You make me want to be vulnerable, to tear down every wall and let you see all of me, the good and the bad, the strong and the broken." Marissa kissed him softly. "I love all of you, Stephen Bruce. Every complex, contradictory, beautiful part." Outside, Seattle's skyline glittered against the night sky, but neither of them noticed. They were too lost in each other, in the miracle of walls coming down and hearts opening up, in the profound joy of finally completely falling in love. The man who had sworn never to love again had found his exception, his miracle, his reason to break every vow except one. The vow to love Marissa Wren for the rest of his life. Chapter 10. Truth and Consequences. The truth came out during a board meeting at Bruce Enterprises. Stephen and Marissa had spent the morning reviewing quarterly projections when his assistant burst in, her face pale. "Mr. Bruce," she stammered, "she's here." Stephen didn't need to ask who she was. Only one person could cause such a reaction. His jaw tightened as he met Marissa's questioning gaze. Caroline. The boardroom fell silent as Caroline Maxwell strode in, 5 years older, but just as beautiful as the day she'd betrayed him. Her designer suit screamed power, her stilettos clicking against marble like ammunition. "Stephen, darling." Her smile was sharp as a blade. "Did you miss me?" Marissa watched her husband's face turn to stone, all the warmth and love she'd grown accustomed to vanishing behind a mask of cold fury. She rose from her seat, moving to stand beside him. "Miss Maxwell," Stephen's voice could have frozen hell. "To what do we owe this intrusion?" Caroline's eyes flickered to Marissa, taking in their proximity, the matching wedding rings, the protective way Stephen angled his body. Oh, how precious. You actually married her. "State your business or leave." The threat in Stephen's tone was unmistakable. "Business. Always business with you." Caroline set her briefcase on the table. "That's why we worked so well together, remember? Until you got all emotional about a few stolen patents." Marissa felt Stephen tense beside her. Without thinking, she placed her hand on his arm, steadying him. The gesture wasn't lost on Caroline. "How sweet," she purred. "He lets you touch him. Tell me, Mrs. Bruce, does he still flinch when you say, 'I love you'? Still build those lovely walls between his heart and everyone else?" "The only thing my husband flinches from is toxic manipulation." Marissa's voice was pure steel. "Now, as he said, state your business." Caroline's smile widened. "Your husband? Oh, that's rich. Stephen doesn't do love, remember? He made quite a public spectacle of swearing off it forever." She turned to Stephen. "What was it you said?" "Love is a weakness I'll never indulge in again." People change. Stephen's hand found Marissa's, squeezing gently. "Now, for the last time, why are you here?" "I'm here representing Morris Technology." Caroline opened her briefcase, withdrawing a stack of documents. "We're prepared to offer a very generous buyout of Bruce Enterprises. The board has already expressed interest." Stephen's laugh was cold. "You're delusional." "Am I?" She slid the papers across the table. "Your board members seem to think differently, especially after learning about certain irregularities in recent financial decisions." Marissa felt Stephen stiffen. The Goldman Sachs deal to save Wren Maritime. He'd taken risks, bent rules. "You've been watching us." It wasn't a question. "Of course I have." Caroline's smile turned predatory. "Did you think I wouldn't notice when the great Stephen Bruce, the man who swore never to love again, started making emotional decisions? Started risking his company for his wife's family business?" "That's enough." Marissa's voice cut through the tension. "Whatever game you're playing, you've already lost." "Have I?" Caroline raised an eyebrow. "Your husband's entire reputation is built on cold logic, on never letting emotions cloud his judgment. Yet here he is, risking everything for love." She spat the word like poison. "The board's already questioning his fitness to lead." "You never loved me," Stephen said quietly, the realization dawning in his eyes. "That's why you could steal from me so easily. It was all a game to you." "Of course it was." Caroline shrugged elegantly. "You were a means to an end. Rich, powerful, emotionally vulnerable after your father's death. The perfect mark." Something shifted in Stephen's expression. Not pain, but clarity. "You never loved me," he repeated, stronger this time. "You never loved me because you don't know how to love." "Love is weakness," Caroline sneered. "You used to understand that." "No." Stephen straightened, squeezing Marissa's hand. "Love is strength. Love is what gave me the courage to trust again, to open my heart, to become better than the man you left broken." "Pretty words." Caroline's smile turned cruel. "But the board won't see it that way. They'll see a CEO compromised by emotion, making risky decisions based on love rather than logic." "Wrong again." Marissa stepped forward, her legal training evident in every confident movement. "The board will see a leader who understands that true strength comes from balance, logic and emotion, head and heart working together." "You think you understand him?" Caroline laughed. "I broke him, made him swear off love forever. Whatever he's telling you now is just another business arrangement." "You never loved me," Stephen said for the third time, but now he was smiling. And that's not what scares you. What scares you is that I found real love anyway. That I healed, grew, became stronger than you ever imagined possible. Caroline's composure cracked slightly. The board approved every decision I've made, Stephen cut her off, including the Goldman Sachs deal, because they understand what you never could, that sometimes the biggest risks bring the greatest rewards. He never loved you, Marissa added softly. Not really. He loved the idea of you, the safe option, the business-minded partner who wouldn't challenge his walls. She turned to Stephen, her eyes softening. That's why it was so easy for you to fool him. He wasn't truly vulnerable with you because he wasn't truly in love. Stephen's eyes filled with understanding. She's right, he said, wonder in his voice. I never loved you, Caroline. Not the way I love Marissa. What we had was a pale imitation of real love. Real love? Caroline scoffed, but her hands were shaking slightly. Listen to yourself. You've become weak, emotional. No, Stephen replied calmly. I've become whole. I've found someone who challenges me to be better, who loves me not despite my flaws, but because of how I strive to overcome them. Someone who shows me every day that love isn't weakness. It's the greatest strength we possess. The boardroom fell silent as Caroline stared at them, her carefully constructed plan crumbling. Stephen stood tall, one arm around Marissa, no trace of the broken man she'd left behind. You never loved me, he said one final time, because you don't know what real love is. And that's not my tragedy anymore, it's yours. This isn't over, Caroline snarled, gathering her papers. The board will hear about this. Yes, they will. Marissa's smile was razor-sharp. They'll hear how Morris Technology attempted a hostile takeover using stolen information. They'll hear how you tried to manipulate the situation using personal history. And they'll hear how their CEO showed true leadership by standing firm in his principles. Caroline's face flushed with anger. You've changed, she spat at Stephen. Thank God for that. He pulled Marissa closer. Now get out of my building. And Caroline? He waited until she reached the door. Thank you. She froze. For what? For teaching me what love isn't. It made recognizing the real thing so much clearer. The door slammed behind her, leaving Stephen and Marissa alone in the sudden quiet. For a moment, they just held each other, processing the confrontation. Are you okay? Marissa asked softly, studying his face. Stephen's smile was radiant. I've never been better. He cupped her face in his hands. You know what I realized, watching her try to use our past against me? What? That she never had the power to break me. My walls, my fears, my vow never to love again, those were choices I made. And meeting you, loving you, choosing you, those were better choices. Tears filled Marissa's eyes. I love you, she whispered. So much. I love you too. He kissed her softly, tenderly. Thank you for showing me what real love feels like, for being patient while I learned to trust again, for loving me enough to break down my walls. Always, she promised, in business and in love, in strength and in vulnerability, always. Outside the boardroom windows, Seattle's skyline stretched toward the clouds, as solid and unchanging as their love for each other. The man who had sworn never to love again had not only found love, but had learned to embrace it, to let it make him stronger rather than weaker. And if the board members who'd witnessed the confrontation saw their CEO kiss his wife with tears in his eyes and joy in his heart, well, that only proved what they already knew. Stephen Bruce was a better leader, a better man for having learned to love again. Chapter 11. Surrender. Their final confrontation happened in the rain, because that's where their story truly began. After Caroline's dramatic exit from Bruce Enterprises, Stephen had thrown himself into damage control, spending hours with the board to ensure their confidence remained unshaken. But something else was stirring beneath his composed exterior, something that had been building since he first admitted his love for Marissa. He found her in their secret spot, the rooftop garden of their penthouse where they'd shared so many pivotal moments. The Seattle rain fell in gentle sheets, but Marissa didn't seem to notice as she stood at the edge, looking out over the city lights. "I thought I'd find you here," Stephen said softly, moving to join her. She didn't turn. "Shouldn't you be in meetings?" "I've had enough meetings." He stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her body, but not quite touching. "The board is satisfied. Our position is secure." "And Caroline?" "Gone." His voice held no regret, only certainty. "Her attempt to undermine us backfired spectacularly. Morris Technology is facing an SEC investigation for corporate espionage." Now Marissa did turn, raindrops clinging to her lashes like diamonds. "That's not what I'm asking." Stephen understood. After Caroline's accusations about his emotional walls, about his inability to truly love, Marissa needed reassurance. "Ask me what you really want to know. Did seeing her change anything?" The vulnerability in her voice made his heart ache. "Did it make you question us, question love?" "Yes." He saw pain flash across her face and quickly caught her hands. "But not in the way you think. Seeing Caroline made me realize something profound." "What's that?" "That I never really loved her at all." His thumbs traced patterns on her palms. "What I felt for her was safe, controlled, exactly what I thought I wanted. But you—" He pulled her closer, uncaring of the rain soaking them both. "You crashed into my life like a storm, destroying every wall, every defense, every carefully constructed barrier around my heart." "Stephen!" "I'm not finished." His eyes held hers, intense and vulnerable. "I won't say it," he insisted, even as he drew her against him. "I won't break my vow." "Then show me," Marissa whispered, her hands sliding up his chest. "Show me what you can't say." The kiss started gentle, but quickly turned desperate. Stephen poured everything he felt into it, all the love he'd denied for so long, all the passion she'd awakened in him, all the certainty that she was his future. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Rain ran down their faces, but neither noticed. "I was wrong," Stephen confessed, his forehead pressed to hers. "About love, about walls, about everything. I thought loving someone meant giving them power to destroy you. But real love, what we have, it doesn't destroy. It builds, it heals, it makes you stronger than you ever thought possible." Tears mixed with raindrops on Marissa's cheeks. "Keep talking." "When I made that vow never to love again, I thought I was protecting myself." His hands framed her face, thumbs brushing away the moisture there. "But all I was doing was hiding. From pain, yes, but also from joy. From the kind of love that changes you, challenges you, makes you want to be better." "And now?" Her voice trembled with emotion. "Now, I understand that some vows are meant to be broken." He kissed her softly, reverently. "Because keeping them would mean missing out on the greatest gift I've ever received, your love." Marissa's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. "Say it again." "I love you." The words came easily now, naturally, like breathing. "I love you with everything I am, everything I've been, everything I hope to become. I love you in ways I never thought possible, with a depth that should terrify me, but instead makes me feel invincible." "More," she demanded softly. "I love how brilliant you are, how fiercely you fight for what you believe in." His kisses traced her jaw, her neck, each one a confession. "I love waking up to your smile, falling asleep to your heartbeat. I love that you saw through my defenses, that you were patient enough to wait while I learned to trust again." Thunder rolled in the distance, but neither noticed. They were lost in their own world, where only their hearts beating in sync mattered. "I love that you make me want things I never thought I'd have." Stephen's voice roughened with emotion. "A real marriage, a family, a future filled with love instead of logic. You make me dream again, Marissa. You make me believe in possibilities I'd given up on years ago." She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes, seeing there all the love and vulnerability he'd hidden for so long. "Tell me what you want," she whispered. "Everything you want." "You." His answer was immediate, passionate, forever, in every way possible. "I want to renew our vows, but this time with no contracts, no business arrangements, just pure love. I want to build a life with you, have children with you, grow old with you. I want everything I was too afraid to want before." Tears spilled freely down Marissa's cheeks now. "When did you become such a romantic? When you taught me that love isn't weakness." He brushed away her tears even as the rain continued to fall. "That real strength comes from opening your heart, not closing it. That the greatest power lies in surrendering to love, not fighting it." She kissed him then, deep and passionate, pouring all her love and joy into the contact. Stephen responded in kind, lifting her off her feet as the kiss deepened. When they finally broke apart, both were soaked to the skin, but neither cared. The city lights sparkled around them like stars fallen to earth, bearing witness to their love. "Take me home," Marissa whispered against his lips. Stephen's smile was tender as he gathered her closer. "We are home. Wherever we're together, that's home." The elevator ride to their penthouse was charged with electricity, their hands and lips unable to stay apart. By the time they reached their bedroom, both were trembling with need. "I love you," Stephen breathed between kisses as they fell onto their bed. "I'll never stop saying it now, never stop showing you." "Show me again," Marissa demanded softly, pulling him closer. "Show me how much you love me." He did. Oh, how he did. Later, as they lay tangled in sheets and each other, the storm outside finally passing, Marissa traced the strong lines of his face. "You know what this means, don't you?" "What's that?" He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "You'll have to make a new public declaration." Her eyes sparkled with mischief. The man who swore never to love again, now proclaiming his love for all to hear. Stephen laughed, the sound full of joy. "I'll take out a billboard if you want. Buy airtime on every channel. Hire skywriters to spell it across Seattle's sky." He grew serious, his eyes intense. "I'm not hiding anymore, Marissa. Let the whole world know that love isn't just possible, it's the most powerful force in existence." "And what about your reputation?" she teased gently. "The Ice King of Seattle, melted by love." "Let them talk." He pulled her closer, his voice rough with emotion. "Let them see what real love looks like. Let them understand that true strength isn't in walls and barriers, but in the courage to be vulnerable, to trust, to love completely." Outside, the clouds were breaking, revealing a sky full of stars. But the greatest light came from within their bedroom, where two hearts beat as one, where love had finally triumphed over fear, where surrender had led to the greatest victory of all. Chapter 12. New Promises. As the first light of dawn painted Seattle's sky, Stephen stood in his private office at Bruce Enterprises, looking out over the awakening city. In his hand, he held a small velvet box, not containing a ring, for Marissa already wore his, but something equally precious. His phone buzzed with a message from Marissa. "Missing you. Where did you disappear to so early?" Instead of responding, he smiled and waited. She would find him soon enough. He'd left a trail of white orchids, her favorites, leading from their penthouse to his office, each bloom attached to a handwritten note describing a moment he fell deeper in love with her. The first orchid. The day you challenged my walls in this very office. The second, when you danced with me at our business arrangement wedding and I felt my heart stir. The third, the night of the thunderstorm, when you showed me what real passion felt like. 20 orchids, 20 moments, leading her on a journey through their love story. Right on cue, his office door opened. Marissa stood there breathless, clutching the orchids and notes, her eyes bright with tears. "Stephen," she whispered, "what is all this?" He turned from the window, and her breath caught at the sight of him. Gone was the usual power suit. Instead, he wore the casual black sweater she loved, the one that made him look softer, more approachable, more like her Stephen, not the business titan the world knew. "Do you remember what you asked me last night?" He moved toward her slowly. "About what I was thinking when I first saw you." "Yes," she said softly. "I lied." He stopped before her, taking the flowers from her hands and setting them aside. "I told you I was thinking about the merger, about business. But the truth is, the moment you walked into my office, something inside me recognized you. Not as a business partner, not as a convenient arrangement, but as the woman who would change everything." "Stephen." "Let me finish." His hands framed her face. "I fought it so hard, built my walls higher, made that public vow never to love again, convinced myself it was just attraction, just convenience. But deep down, from that very first moment, my soul knew yours." Tears spilled down Marissa's cheeks as he reached into his pocket and withdrew the velvet box. "This isn't a ring," he said softly, opening it to reveal an antique key on a delicate platinum chain. "This is the key to the first house I ever bought. Long before I became who I am today. I've never shown it to anyone, never even told anyone about it. It's my sanctuary, the place I go when I need to remember who I am beneath all the armor." "It's beautiful," she breathed, touching the key gently. "It's yours now." He lifted the chain, placing it around her neck. "Because you are my sanctuary now. You are where I find peace, where I can be completely myself, where all the walls come down and only love remains." Marissa's hands trembled as she touched the key resting against her heart. "I don't understand. Why today?" Stephen smiled, pulling her closer. "Because today marks exactly 1 year since you first walked into my office. 1 year since my heart recognized its mate, even if my head took longer to catch up, and I wanted to show you something." He led her to his desk, pressing a button that activated a hidden screen. Images filled the wall, hundreds of photographs taken over the past year. Marissa at their wedding, looking uncertain but determined. Their first real kiss on the charity gala balcony. Quiet moments in their penthouse. The day they saved her family's company. Their rain-soaked declarations of love. "You've been documenting our story," she realized, amazed. "Every moment I fell deeper in love with you." His arms wrapped around her from behind. "Every time you broke down another wall, every instance, I thought my heart would burst from loving you so much." "But you didn't know." She turned in his arms. "Back then, you were still fighting it." "My mind was fighting." He pressed his forehead to hers. "But my heart knew. It's why I kept these moments, even when I was denying what I felt. Something in me knew they were precious, knew they were pieces of the greatest love story I'd ever know." Music began to play softly, the song from their first dance at their wedding. But this time, when Stephen pulled her into his arms, there was no audience, no pretense, no walls between them. "I have new vows for you," he murmured as they swayed together. "Not the business arrangement we made a year ago, Not even the love declarations we shared in the rain, but promises for our future, for the life we'll build together. Tell me, she whispered against his heartbeat. I vow to love you with everything I am, he began, his voice rough with emotion. To wake each morning grateful for the miracle of finding you. To fill our life with so much joy and passion that you never doubt, not for a moment, that meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. Tears fell freely down Marissa's face as she responded, I vow to keep loving you past reason, past logic, past any bounds or barriers. To be your partner in all things, your safe harbor in every storm, your home in this world. I vow, his lips brushed her temple, to spend every day showing you what real love looks like, to build a family with you, to grow old with you, to love you more fiercely with each passing breath. I vow, she pressed closer, to keep challenging you, supporting you, believing in you, to fill our days with laughter and our nights with passion, to love you completely, eternally, without reservation or fear. Their vows mingled with kisses as the sun rose higher, bathing them in golden light. The wall of photographs watched over them, testament to a love that had grown from business to passion to something transcendent. I have one more surprise, Stephen murmured against her lips. More than all this? He smiled, leading her to the window. Look there, across the bay. Marissa followed his gaze to see a fleet of boats moving into position, their decks covered in what looked like white fabric. What? As if on cue, the fabric unfurled, revealing massive letters visible from their vantage point. Stephen Bruce loves Marissa Wren, now and forever. You didn't, she gasped, laughing through her tears. Oh, but I did. He pulled her back against his chest. Let the whole world know the man who swore never to love again hasn't just fallen in love. He's found his soulmate, his miracle, his forever. As Seattle awakened fully, its citizens would discover their city transformed into a declaration of love. Every digital billboard, every public screen, even the Space Needle itself, carried the same message. The business titan, who had once publicly sworn off love, was now just as publicly embracing it. But in his office, wrapped in each other's arms, Stephen and Marissa were in their own world. Their kisses tasted of promises and passion, of broken vows remade stronger, of a love powerful enough to transform ice into fire, fear into courage, solitude into connection. For in the end, their story wasn't about business arrangements or careful plans. It was about two souls finding their missing pieces, two hearts learning to beat in harmony, two lives merging into something greater than either had imagined possible. And if anyone looking up saw the infamous Ice King of Seattle dancing with his beloved in the morning light, saw him glowing with the kind of love he'd once sworn never to feel, saw him surrendering completely to the greatest force in existence, well, that was the most beautiful testimony of all. Love had won, not through force or manipulation, but through patience and understanding and the courage to be vulnerable. And in that victory, two hearts became one, two paths merged into a single journey, and two souls found their way home in each other's love. Their forever was just beginning. Subscribe if you loved.